Thanks, Mark. And thanks everyone for joining us. It's great to see so many of you on the line. Some of you I think I've spoken with, and some of you I haven't. So, my name is Anna Phillips, and I lead on partnerships here at MovingWorlds. And I'm on the line with Mark, who I'm sure many of you know, Mark Horsofsky, CEO and co-founder of MovingWorlds, and with Alexandra Nemeth, our program management fellow. With many apologies for the video.
Hey, everybody.
So thank you all so much for your time today. What we're going to do is we're going to give you a very quick overview and reminder of what the corporate impact team is all around. Our corporate impact team is going to run this summer from June to September, and it's designed for busy professionals to understand more about social impact, learn how to become social entrepreneurs, and take that learning back into their companies. So we're going to quickly run through that. We're going to share some story from alumni, and then we're going to open it up to you for questions. So, very quick overview. Who's it for? The MovingWorlds Corporate Impact Team is targeted for ambitious professionals who love their current job and are interested in social impact and want to take this learning into the companies where they're working to grow themselves as professionals and also find more purpose and have impact from within their current roles. So by professionals, we mean people with around 2 years of professional experience. And as we go through the slides, it'll become clear why that matters. What the program involves is cohort-based learning. So there's a virtual learning model which takes 1 to 2 hours a week, and it's designed to fit around your busy working schedule. And then using your professional expertise to support a social impact organization through an experteering or a skills-based volunteering placement, which could be anywhere in the world that you're interested in going. So as I said, it takes place virtually, and there's group sessions, there's live webinars, there's one-to-one in coaching, and we have the MovingWorlds database providing a fully scoped project anywhere in the world. And when it's going to run through this summer, from June to September. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Mark, who's going to give us straight away a story of somebody who's gone through MovingWorlds program.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. Yeah, definitely one of my favorite parts of the role is to capture and share stories from experteers that come from around the world. We've now had experteers from over 40 countries go to over 60 countries to work on projects. So always a bit hard to pick out one, but for our Impact Teams program, we wanted to zero in a little bit more on the story of one person who really used her experience as a way to grow in her professional role and then take those insights back into her firm where she was currently working. And so the story that we chose today is one from Jessica. And Jessica went experteering on a project and joined one of our programs really for the sake of developing more insights, know-how, skills, but also confidence to grow as a leader, to do more community-based projects. So here she is on the left in the field. She had gone experteering actually. This is a little bit rare, but she did 2 back-to-back projects in Zambia and then Ghana. And so here she is taking in some sites on the weekend. But there she was working with community-based groups on human-centered design activities to help develop more sustainable ways and actually community-based structures to foster things in the community like education. And then the next picture we have of Jessica is actually back in her office. Jessica works at an architecture firm where she's actually giving a presentation to her team on the things and principles that she developed while on her experience. And the core here really being, for Jessica was, the firm was established and successful, but she thought there were really opportunities for ways that they could mobilize on more community-based social impact projects. And she used her experience to develop up those skills, but also develop the business case as to why the firm should do that. And then one of the newer projects then that Jessica got to work on was developing within the communities that the firm was already functioning, how could they could do more on really creating more sustainable local communities, healthy for all participants involved. So kind of a round cycle there of, putting stretch skills, to practice in the community, returning home, mobilizing her company, and then actually getting to work on projects that really integrated social impact, but also business goals for her firm. And the approach that we use for this impact team is the same that we use for some of our corporate programs, which includes the program that we did and continue to operate, design and operate for Microsoft, called the My Skills for Africa program. The research and outcomes is published here in the Stanford Social Innovation Review article about optimizing international corporate volunteer programs, where we use the idea of a transformative learning model to develop new skills amongst our members, give them peer-based accountability in critical conversations, connect them to a stretch experience in the field, and then help them reflect back home and then teach back. And that opportunity creates not only opportunities for their own personal growth, but also to share that with the company and identify other innovation or market-based opportunities for the company within the communities for which the person already lives and works and resides. So Anna, I'll hand it over to you to talk a little bit more about the timeline.
Thanks, Mark. So applications are now open, and we've had applications coming in, and they close at the end of May, and straight away in the first week of June, once people have been accepted into the program, we're going to go into orientation, introductions, getting to know each other, and then almost straight away into the experteering match and kick-off personal planning process. And this is because in order to find a project that really suits your skills, it's going to allow you to grow as a professional and put yourself into a new environment, but still using what you do in your day job, or to using a skill that you're very comfortable with. It takes a little bit of time, and our program management team are on hand to help you through this planning process. There'll be 2 personal assessments, because a large part of the impact team model is about self-reflection, self-knowledge, and professional development and growth. So we partner with Imperative Purpose and Aperion Globe Smart, so that you have a chance to understand your purpose drivers, what motivates you when it comes to work and community and collaboration, and then your cultural competency and your cross-cultural leadership skills. And these will all be worked into reflection that you'll do throughout the program. We have an ongoing program of virtual training covering key topics on human-centered design, cross-cultural leadership, social entrepreneurship, and innovation. So really thinking about how you can learn about sustainable development and what's happening out there in the social impact space, and then take that back into your current role, share it with your company, and build it into innovation and entrepreneurship within your organization. Throughout this, we're going to have live Q&As with industry experts. So this will include leaders from the social impact space and social entrepreneurs, so people who have championed groundbreaking social impact programs from within large companies. The personal goal setting and learning workbook will go on using what you've learned from your assessment, what you're planning, what you're thinking about your time in the field, and what you're learning from the curriculum that's being delivered. There's a process of reflection and guidance to think about and capture your learning. You'll have one final human-centered design and experteering preparation to think about how you can be the most effective, collaborative, and supportive volunteer while you're in the field. And then you'll go experteering on your own for a period of 1 to 3 weeks. It could be paid time off if your company allows that. It could be vacation time, or perhaps some of you might be in a sabbatical period. But our program is really designed for people who are in full-time work and can fit this in. And we work with you to find a project where you can have an impact. If a week is all that you have, we'll make sure that it's a really fully scoped, meaningful project that has been that starts with the need of the organization that you're going to. That will take us all the way through the summer up until August. And then in September, we'll do wrap up. So there'll be guided reflection so that you can capture everything that you've learned and really critically present it back to your company in the form of an innovation report or whatever format you know is going to best suit. We give you career storytelling support, so you can think about what you've learned and you can weave it into how you present yourself internally, how you present your experience. And finally, you'll join a global network of social impact alumni who've come through the MovingWorlds program, who are on the MovingWorlds platform, and who are part of our wider network of corporate change makers and people who are working to create shared value from within business. So in order to bring that to life, what I think I'll do is tell you a story from another of our alumni. So the story I'd like to tell is Ashkan, who is a human-centered designer and customer experience designer in digital with a financial firm. And he volunteered. His company had a volunteering scheme initially, was the impetus, and he really wanted this to have impact. He didn't want to just go and do something that he felt was not really leveraging his professional skills to the maximum, and that's why he reached out to MovingWorlds and joined one of our programs. And so he went through the same process that we just outlined there. He spent time planning and thinking about the project that he was doing with the support of our program management team. He took what he'd learned. He obviously had a lot of design experience already, but he complemented this with his newfound understanding of the social impact space, and a curriculum that involved a wide range of books, topics, ideas, new concepts and frameworks around development, around management, around collaboration and questioning. And he spent time with his school in Costa Rica, using his human-centered designs to upskill the staff there and to work with the students directly and to develop a new curriculum off the back of that. And he brought back that experience to the boardroom, to his current role. He's given a lot of feedback on how it really informed his work as a consultant, his ability to work collaboratively, and put his skills to the test in a really new environment. And he also became a champion for social good within his company. So he's now currently campaigning and working from the inside on his company's volunteering scheme to make sure that all the projects are skills-based and are really leveraging the deep technical expertise that he and his colleagues have. So the last little bit of information we're going to share before we open it up to questions is around the pricing. Just to explain what the pricing is and what's involved in that. So the program costs $1,250 per person, and what that includes is a curriculum of virtual training and webinars from MovingWorlds personnel and from industry leaders. It includes the cost of the assessments that you'll do. It includes all of the support and the learning guides, the templates, the work, the report guidance that you'll receive. Preferred matching support, and now this means that as projects are posted onto our database, we work very intensively with you to make sure that we can find the right project. And if there isn't one in the time frame that suits you, we'll reach out with our network of partners, the Impact Hub, the Impact Investors, the Accelerators, the wide network of NGOs and social enterprises that we work with worldwide, and see if anybody can use your skills, but they haven't got around to posting a project that exactly matches that yet. You get 12 months of MovingWorlds community membership, and then alumni access for life, and networking guidance and tools. The additional costs, as well as this program fee, are the international travel, the lodging and meals, and the visa and insurance. The lodging and meals on the project are very often provided by local partners, almost always. But there are a few additional costs that you will incur around the travel. So in total, it depends very much on where you go, but we would say it would be a maximum of up to $2,500, including all of the travel costs. And there are program tuition scholarships available. So if that's of interest to you, reach out and we can talk that through. So thank you for your time. And the last thing I'm going to do is open it up into questions.
Wonderful. Thanks, Anna. So I've just been kind of collecting questions as the presentation has been going through. We've got some really good ones here. So I'll just go ahead and start with the first one. The question asks, how much time will I need to put in if I was part of this program on average?
That's an excellent question. And I think more time can be put in. The more you're interested, the more you can read and reach out and maximize the community features. but within 1 to 3 hours per week on average over the course of the 4 months, you'll feel the full benefits of the program. And then obviously there's the time that you spend on the field, which it can be as short as 1 week or can be as long as you have, but we've designed this to fit around your busy schedule. So within 1 week in the field, you can have an impact.
Wonderful. Thanks, Anna. This next one is a good question too. So the person who asked the question said, I lead employee volunteering for my company, and I'm thinking about sending a group. So what is the maximum number of participants that one company could send? And do you run group projects? Is there a different process if maybe a couple people from the same company wanted to participate in this?
That's a great question. I can see on the Q&A, we actually have quite a similar question has come in just as you were saying that. So I'm going to answer both of them. How many people per cohort? The maximum cohort in an impact team we feel is 20, because that size allows for people to build relationships and to really feel that they're part of a team. In terms of the question that you asked, the sub-question about going on a group project, very rarely do we see organizations post a need for more than 1, maximum 2 people at a time, because generally organizations are either small or growing, and that's why they need the expertise of a volunteer, or their teams are small, and it's not usual that somebody would be able to effectively use the professional skills of more than 1 professional at a time. So people tend to go expertise on their own. That said, if there are groups who are very keen to go, sometimes we have been able to work out arrangements with accelerators or other umbrella bodies where they could be supporting different organizations in a consultant capacity, but in the same geographical location. So there are sometimes ways around it, but more generally, our projects are designed for one person to go on their own.
Great. Thank you, Anna. I think that answers the question. Next up, where do most impact team participants go? And the second part of the question asks how long. I think we kind of covered that. You mentioned that, which I think is particularly exciting for people who are currently employed full-time, that they can make an impact in as little as a week on the ground. But the first part of the question asks, where do most impact team participants go?
Great, and I can jump in to help answer that question. So the summary is that you can actually go, or impact team members will actually go wherever they want. So they can choose a project that aligns with both their skills and geographic preferences. What we tend to see in our corporate programs is that there's a little bit of a kind of combination of both where the person wants to go, but also an area that would be useful to the company, especially if the company is sponsoring participation. So whether that's new market development or key constituents or a valuable part of the supplier distribution chain. So it's one thing that our preferred matching process will actually take into account is every member will be able to state their expertise preferences. So these are the skills they want to learn. These are the areas where they want to stretch themselves. And then these are the languages and geographies that they want to go expertising in. And then we can work to customize those. Now, because these are typically a little bit shorter term projects on these corporate style programs, so like Anna has mentioned a couple times, the average experience will probably be 1 to 3 weeks. That during that project, there's some things that you might want to take into account individually. So we tend to see people almost staying in like their time zone and often traveling a little bit closer to home. Although I do know that we've had a 36-hour out and back return flight for a week-long project before. So it really does depend on the person, but it's one thing that through the whole expertise planning process, we really take a customized approach to make sure that everybody's getting a project that fits and aligns with skills, but also location.
Thanks so much, Mark. I think that's incredibly helpful. That was a perfect lead into one of the other questions that came up, which was, do you have any participants who are sponsored by their company, and how does that work? You had mentioned that Mark, some people are company sponsored. Can you explain a little more about kind of the ins and outs of how that works?
Yeah, happy to, and I'll probably hand it back to you at the end to highlight anything that I've missed. But there are some programs sponsored by companies where it's actually not at all visible. As an example, like the Microsoft program, other than the research that's submitted, there's very little outward facing opportunities there. But within our impact teams programs, this is available to companies really from around the world. So we have a couple different ways that this works. We're working with a couple corporate partners right now that have pre-sponsored people. So they're sending us a number of applicants, and they've actually asked us to own the application process. So we are kind of a neutral third party, really picking people that we think will be best for the program, that are screened during the application process. And then on the back end, there's an arrangement for the costs of both application and participation fee to be covered by the corporate partner. So that's one, right? It's a little bit more structured, it's a little more arranged. Or on the other option, we have people who apply individually, and then once they're accepted, they then work with their company to either reimburse or cover the expense directly. We have one corporate partner that covers 50%. And no travel. We have others that cover all travel and program costs, and then we have other individuals that have, worked with our team to develop other funding methods for themselves. But we do have a few resources to help, both in terms of sample emails or even data points that we do provide to individuals in case they do want a little bit of help to, strike up that conversation with their manager or human resources or leadership development. Anna, anything that I missed there?
No, that was pretty comprehensive. Yeah. One thing I wanted to add is I realized that when I read the question that had come through, and I realized I hadn't answered it fully, which is how many cohorts. So we run one cohort at a time, but the corporate impact team is a rolling program. So the June dates are set in stone, but then on demand, we will run it again later on through the year.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys. And I have another question that ties into what you were talking about, kind of program costs. The question asks, are there any scholarship options? Could you walk us through that and kind of how that works?
Sure. I'll take a quick stab at this and then let Mark jump in at the end as well. We're really keen that our programs are accessible, and we know that the dollar value is not the same in every part of the world. And we have a really global applicant body and participant body in our programs, and try and make it as possible as we can. That said, we are ourselves a social enterprise, a B Corp, and do not always have the reserves that we have to offer everybody full scholarships. So what we do is we invite applications for scholarships and then talk individually with each applicant to understand their circumstances and see how we can make it possible for them to participate.
And I think that covers it well, Anna. I just got a chat message here then as another question. Can you clarify average years of experience in terms of participants for this program? If a company is sponsoring, what's the right kind of age, demographic, and skill level of somebody coming across the program?
Sure. So we call it experteering, and that doesn't mean that you have to have a PhD in whatever it is that you're doing to qualify as an expert, but we ask that you have professional skills that could be of value to another organization. And generally, it varies, but generally at least 2 years of professional experience mean that you've learned something very concrete that you can then take to an organization who doesn't have somebody who's been trained or qualified in that subject matter. So we'd say 2 years is the minimum. And the participants in our previous impact teams have really ranged from retirees or people with 30 years of work experience who are kind of transitioning into their last phase of their career to people who, are in their 20s, their mid to late 20s, so have maybe 3 to 5 years of experience, and everywhere in between. So it's really open, and That's the reason that we ask for a couple of years of professional experience.
And maybe just to layer on there, we tend to see from our other corporate partners that are sponsoring participants through that I think what's interesting here is that it kind of ties into corporate objectives. So, some programs tend to be a little bit more of part of like a millennial engagement strategy. So there you'll see people, in their late 20s. Others use it as a little bit of a kind of leadership and manager readiness program. So you start to see people that are closer to that 5 to 10 year mark, within their career, moving up, being kind of tagged and tapped as being their, a next leader or potentially opening up a new geography, or has already done a lot for either social or diversity and inclusion issues, and is then being given a new opportunity as a way of both saying thank you, but also to keep that people engaged. So we tend to see people that are high performers, again, at least the minimum years of experience to ensure that there's impact. So we don't tend to see new like onboarding or rotation programs, but we do tend to see really the average kind of being in that like 7 to 12 years of experience, people that have been tagged for growth opportunities. But of course, happy to further talk one-on-one on that question to see what would make the most sense for your company.
I guess the one thing I would add to that as well is that, as well as professional expertise, participants need to have a real interest in social impact, or some kind of leaning towards understanding more about what's going on in the rest of the world outside of their business setting, how their business skills can be of use, and understanding better the frameworks around social impact. So that's the only thing I'd add.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. That's the last question I had that had come through on my end. If anyone else on the line has any questions.
Thanks so much. Well, I'll move on quickly to the next step. So applications are open now, and they close on May 31st. And then we'll be announcing acceptances all that week. And then the program will kick off, as I said, in June. So the trainings, the live webinars will run through June and July. And then the field placements will start sometime in July or August. And it will depend, because everybody in the team will be going on their own individual experteering placement. And then finally, the program will complete with a virtual send-off and the finalization of the innovation report back to the company on September 15th. So that's everything from us here at MovingWorlds. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your participation. And we're really looking forward to hearing from you.
Perfect. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.